Ausar Thompson.
Elite athlete with elite hands and elite ability to finish around the rim. And this is a guy that could come in day one and be a very impactful player.
Marcus Sasser to me reminds me a lot of like a Marcus Smart kind of dog.
Is Cam Johnson. I think it's a perfect fit.
Welcome back to the Woodward Heavyweights. I am Nicholas Koloff at the Tailgate Wins on YouTube. I'm here with CP.
Dog.
Woodward Sports. NBA Savant.
NBA Savant. Don't you forget.
Chris, the 2023 NBA draft is behind us. The Detroit Pistons took Ausar Thompson and Marcus Sasser.
In a trade up. You know Troy was going to do something.
Yeah.
You knew come draft night you can count on Troy making a trade. There's death, taxes, and Troy Weaver draft.
And Trader Troy. You don't get the nickname for no reason there.
You're right.
So we're going to start today with Ausar Thompson at 5, but break down Ausar Thompson for us.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's an elite athlete with elite hands and elite ability to finish around the rim. He does a lot of things elite. He has a very high IQ, I would say an elite IQ. One of the best in this draft class. Him and Anthony Black, to me, really, really stand out for their amazing, tremendous feel for the game. So he's a guy that's going to be able to find a way to fit in. And you've seen that at overtime when he played with his brother, where he would often go back and forth between taking a back seat and then stepping up. Because, you know, he got those 2 MVP awards when crunch time mattered for overtime. But then he also, for most of the season, deferred to Amin, let Amin be the main point. So he's shown an ability to just be able to be a Swiss Army knife. And that's one thing that this Pistons team was missing, is you had your Bojan for your shooting, you had Stewart for your defense, and you know you're trying to get him the 3-point shot, but you had all of these one-dimensional players, and this is a guy that could come in day one and be a very impactful player because there's many ways to impact the game. And so I like that. The shot is, yes, very questionable, 33% from 3, although the overtime line is the same as the NBA line, so it's not the difference that you see in college. He has an ability to shoot the 3 at a decent clip, especially if that continues to improve. You look at the mechanics, they're fine. I don't think he'll ever be an elite shooter. I think that's a huge stretch. But can he be a 36, 37% three-point shooter in the NBA? I think so. I think so.
Yeah, that'd be a great number if he could hit that clip. But speaking of him taking a backseat a little bit to Amen, do you think his numbers would have risen significantly higher if Amen Thompson isn't on that team and he's the clear number 1 go-to guy? Do you think he would have been okay in that role? Or do you think he just fit in the role that was there for him?
I think he mainly fit in the role. I think his numbers, certain numbers I think his scoring would be up, but his efficiency would probably be down.
Gotcha.
But that's fine because in the Pistons case, you know, you bring up a good point there. Like the Pistons are drafting him to supplement Ivy, Cade, and Duren. And while he is probably the 4th most important player on this Pistons roster right now, he's ultimately there to service Cade, Ivy, and probably Duren, but mostly Cade and Ivy. Yep. So for this pick, you know, for him to show an ability to kind of, you know, weave in and out of the limelight, which is why I brought that up earlier, I think that shows that this man has the ability to really impact teams and really impact winning, and he wants to impact winning because ultimately at the end of the day, these kids are fighting for their NBA draft money. It's a huge difference getting picked first from 7th, or in Cam Whitmore's case, 5 from 20. Like you're talking about millions of dollars of difference in your first contract, and your second contract is not guaranteed. So the fact that Ausar was willing to, with the stakes that high, take a step back, lets me know that, okay, this guy really is about winning, and I think he'll fit this Detroit culture very well. Skill wise, maybe not so much. You want better shooting around Cade and Ivy, but when you look at the total package of the culture, the work ethic, everything that he brings, and some of the skill sets, he can fit around Cade and Ivy nicely. He could be that guy that takes the biggest perimeter defender, the lead scorer. Yeah. He can be that guy who challenges their best scorer and lets Cade and Ivy rest, which allows them to be more explosive and healthy on offense. Well, I mean, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think the defense is a big reason why Troy Weaver ended up taking him at number 5. If the shot can get there, I'm going to love this pick. Ausar Thompson's our guy now. No doubt about it. I'm going to be rooting like hell for this guy. And hopefully he is that missing piece of the puzzle next to Ivy, next to Cade, next to Duren, making this whole thing work. But after Ausar, Trader Troy went back up in the first round to draft Marcus Sasser, the 4-year guard out of Houston. What are your first thoughts on Sasser?
My first thoughts were I can't believe we got him because I had him on my big board, but I had him a little lower just because of the reality. I didn't think he was going to be available for the Pistons at 31, and it turns out he probably wasn't going to be, which is why Troy traded up and gave up 2 future seconds plus 31. I like this pick, man. I like this pick a lot because coming into this draft, Troy Weaver had to address 2 things, and he had to address it in spades, and that's defense and shooting.
Yep.
And while you would have liked to have gotten that 2 times and 2 prospects, he did get it with Marcus Sasser. The shooting is absolutely not a question. I mean, this guy is going to be an extreme difficult shot maker, and that is a very important tool to have with the Pistons. And, you know, a lot of people think this spells the doom or the writing on the wall for Killian Hayes. To me, he fits Killian Hayes perfectly in the backcourt, but he can also play with Alec Burks and Cade Cunningham.
Oh, yeah.
He has a lot of functionality on this team, being a guy who is just an absolute lockdown defender and a great shooter and has that dog in him. The thing I like to say about him is that he's one of those guys that when you watch the tape, you get that feeling that if they're going against the Bucks, he's going to say, I got Giannis. Like, he's that guy who he doesn't care that he's 6'2" and Giannis is 7 foot. Yeah. He wants to take the best challenge.
He does.
And so I think that is a great role player to have on this Piston team, someone that provides shooting and defense. And it doesn't spell the end of Killian Hayes' his tenure in Detroit, but it does mean that if Killian Hayes were to leave, it's a more comfortable blow, and it's not something that the Pistons are put in this awkward position of we kind of need him, so we have to re-sign him. To me, Marcus Sasser is a great pick. And all the things he doesn't do well, Killian does well, which is why I like him. Killian's a bigger guard who can guard the bigger matchup. And then Killian Hayes is much better of a playmaker and can run the pick and roll better than Marcus Sasser. Marcus Sasser really is just simply a bucket and a defender. And that is what you want in this Piston team a lot. So Troy, overall, dressed defense heavy and 3-point shooting a little bit in this draft. And I'm happy with that because those were the Pistons' 2 biggest needs, and now we'll see what he does with free agency.
Yeah, Marcus Sasser to me reminds me a lot of like a Marcus Smart kind of dog, like that dog that you need on your team. Maybe the upside for the starting isn't there with him, but Marcus Sasser was number 5 in the nation in total win shares this past year, and he was 46-7 in conference the last 3 seasons he was a starter. So you know he's an absolute winner. He had 17 points a game, so you know he's an absolute bucket. He was the leader of Houston, who was just putting up massive numbers the last 3 years, and he was the leader of that team. I think this is a perfect pick for a guy to get off the bench and bring the absolute dog. I think it does take Killian's place personally, and I know Killian was trying to get down on the defensive end like that, but I don't think he was really like that. I think he's a good defender. I think Sasser has the potential to really piss people off in like a Pat Bev, Marcus Smart kind of way. And I think Sasser's going to do the same exact thing.
I agree. And, you know, another comp of a player that I love. This is a guy, listen, free game if you're running your 2K franchise. Always pick up Javon Carter. The dude plays great defense and shoots the 3-point ball very well. It's just an awesome end of the bench guard that you need. And that's some of the comps that I had in the draft, and other places have had that as well. And then keep in mind, the dude has a 6'7" wingspan. So although he is a little smaller, you know, he has the ability to kind of guard up a little bit. There's shades of Davion Mitchell in there as well. Just that kind of guy who you're not quite sure how he's going to impact the game. You just know that he will. And so I think Marcus Sasser is a guy that I think is going to be in the NBA for 10 to 12 years. And he's really going to, maybe even 15, and just be an impact player night in, night out on a very good team. And so, you know, as this Detroit core grows and continues to develop, you're now getting supplemental pieces
Yeah.
like Isaiah Stewart, like Marcus Sasser, maybe James Wiseman. We'll see about that. So Troy is building out the roster now.
Yep.
And with this draft, this signals to me that this team is ready to compete. Because at the end of the day, he is a 4-year guard. So, you know, this is a guy that's going to be ready to contribute to the NBA this season. I can't wait for Summer League, man. Are you excited for Summer League?
Summer League's going to be absolutely crazy. I want to live stream it here, to be quite honest. We'll see if Booner can throw something together on some live streams and see what the numbers look like for that one as we analyze it. Speaking of filling out this roster, we have free agency coming up. Who is your number one target for the Detroit Pistons to take this team to maybe 30 to 35 wins, to maybe sneaking up to 39, 40, and really going at that play-in?
Yeah, I think the one name that you got to look at, I mean, there's two names in particular, and I went back and forth with them.
I believe we have the same two names.
The one name is Cam Johnson. I think that's my number one, just because of his ability to shoot the three-point at a very high level. Jeremy Grant is a good player, a very good player, and one that I think the Pistons could ultimately pursue if, you know, the Portland thing goes awry, which who knows at the time we're recording with Dame what's going to happen.
Switches every day.
But, but at the end of the day, Cam Johnson is younger than Jeremy Grant. He's more athletic. He's not as strong and as defensively versatile as Jeremy Grant. So I like Jeremy Grant for that aspect. But Cam Johnson is going to be cheaper too. Jeremy Grant's going to get $30 million or north of, or north of. Whereas Cam Johnson will get probably in the 25 to 26, 27 range. And as far as the sign and trade route goes with Brooklyn and Detroit, I don't think a sign and trade is something you really have to worry about, because Brooklyn is a team that doesn't want to be taxed for a team that they know is not going to be good.
Strap for cash.
If they do that, they'll take on a little salary in return, or maybe a second round pick. At the end of the day, you don't really see too much go out in a sign and trade. So I think for the Pistons, this is a smart move. Put the ball in Brooklyn's court and let them decide what they're going to do about Cam. Because we've seen this guy play well. We've seen this guy, Nick. We've seen this guy, man, score 44% on 3 points in the NBA Finals. Yeah. So this guy has done it on the best stage, and not only has he done it on the best stage, but he's done it with the same coach that the Pistons have, Monty Williams. So I think it's just a perfect fit for all sides. He can also provide that slashing and cutting ability with his athleticism. Dude's just a hooper. I think he fits this team in so many ways. And I think that, you know, if the Pistons could get him, that is a very, very good fit to put on this team.
Yeah, one of the notes I had is just he's a great floor spacer for Cade and Ivy, and I think that's exactly what they need. But I wanted to pass it back to you for a second, because I know he does have a slight injury history. So given that, what would be a number you're comfortable with that Brooklyn wouldn't match? Like, what would be the number you would throw out there per year for Cam Johnson?
I wouldn't go more than 27. I would go 25 to 27. I think anything under 25, you probably don't get it done. Gotcha. And I think that's a reason why that report is out there, because again, you got to think of these things in the terms of the agents and all the moving parts. Yeah, there's a reason that Detroit Pistons pursuing Cam Johnson, willing to offer more than $100 million, got put out there. Yeah. Because they want to see how Brooklyn is going to react to that. Yeah. They want to see if Brooklyn's going to get a little scared, a little nervous, or Brooklyn's going to be like, no, that's fine, we'll match that, no problem. Because if Brooklyn puts it out there that they'll match it, no problem, it's up to Troy to call the bluff. Yeah. And if they're not bluffing and they will match it, then let's just not even go that route. Let's move on to pursuing Jeremy Grant or any of these other free agents that we want to name. So that's a very, very important part with Cam. And as far as the injury history goes, I'm not too concerned about it, because this team, your core is built on all rookie contracts. Ivy, Cade, Duren, Ausar, these are all guys under rookie contracts right now. Even Isaiah Stewart for the last year, this year. So you have all these rookie contracts, so you can afford to sign somebody for 3 to 4 years at a number that's maybe a little bit overvalued, because you don't have to pay these guys until the next coming years. Yeah. Cade, his extension doesn't start his extension eligible next year, but won't start for 2 years. You got 3 years on Ivy, 3 years on Duren. Like, this is a long time before you have to pay. And by that point, Cam Johnson is in the 3rd or 4th year of his deal. And if he's an expiring contract, you've seen those get moved around like nothing.
Definitely.
So even if he is injured or doesn't play well or whatever, in that final year or 2 of his contract, that's a very movable contract that you will no doubt be able to you will no doubt be able to get off. But the last thing I want to say about free agency in particular with the Pistons, I think you're going to agree with this. If it's not one of the top free agents, don't count out Troy to use that cap space in a trade. We saw it last year with the New York Knicks, where he got Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, who he thought was going to be a role player, wasn't a role player, and some second-round picks. So you got some draft capital plus a guy that was in the rotation because teams are looking to either cut with this new CBA or they're looking to sign a big free agent or some type of salary cap move. Well, hell, we saw John Collins get dumped for nothing.
Oh my!
So
yeah, I don't know about that. I would have taken a peek. I would have. I'm a John Collins fan though.
I like John Collins too, but I think
contract.
I would have got Cam Johnson for the same money personally.
Yep, gotcha.
That's how I am with it. So
yeah, I could see, and even Bojan, like before the season, like Troy's always ready to roll.
Exactly.
And I thought Bojan was a great piece, who I believe we should keep before next year. I'm just throwing that out there.
I agree too. I agree. You need a lot of elite shooters around.
A lot of speculation between Bojan right now.
I get it because of the timeline. Yeah. I get it because of the timeline, but in reality, Cade and Ivy need multiple 40% 3-point shooters around them, and you hope it's Cam Johnson, Bogey, and Alec Burks, and then you're looking at actual nice fitting roster. But don't count Troy out to just look at these trades. And we saw Jordan Poole kind of basically just dumped. So these teams are looking to dump some bad contracts. And while they might be a slight overpay, again, same principle. You can afford to do it because of the rookie scale contracts. A lot like the Lions are in that same position right now. So, I think there's real value there. And I think that Troy is going to weaponize that cap space, whether it's in free agency or trade. So don't just look at the free agents, everybody, when you're dreaming up your wish list. Look at these rosters, and there's going to be some players that are traded, and Detroit could be a team that's primed to take advantage of that.
Hell yeah! Well, let's go. I mean, come Friday, you heard it here first. Cam Johnson is going to the Pistons. Or Saturday, whenever it officially starts.
Yeah, they got to send an offer sheet, and then Brooklyn's got to technically have some time to accept it or reject it. But normally when the sheet is offered, Brooklyn will or whatever team will just kind of announce that will announce the sources that leak out the information.
Woj or Shams, one of them's gonna have it.
Yeah, so like what was the DeAndre one match in like 4 minutes? Like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of ones. Indiana dodged a bullet there. I bet Phoenix is pissed that they matched that offer sheet.
Yeah, but definitely didn't work out like they wanted to. So we will get back to you after free agency, no doubt. See what the Detroit Pistons do, and hopefully we have a live stream for you guys with the Pistons Summer League. We're gonna figure it all out. But Pistons making moves, Chris.
Yes, sir.
CP, NBA savant, Woodward Heavyweight savant.
My guy.
Great pod. Go Pistons.
God. Go Pistons.